Alright guys, so Warzone 2 and DMZ are finally here in Season 1 of Modern Warfare 2. So today, we're going to be talking about both of those modes, so let's go ahead and start with Warzone 2. So I really don't have much to say here for really either of the modes. Warzone 2 is pretty much a carbon copy of Warzone 1, just with a few differences here and there. Firstly, and this might just be because I hadn't played Warzone for 2 years, but going back to Warzone 1, right before this game came out, it seemed incredibly overcomplicated. There was so much going on, and with like Godzilla and King Kong and all these different events and these different zones and all this stuff, and I was just real lost. It was real confusing. This just brings it down to the basics. It's real simple. You drop in, you pick up a gun, you grab a contract if you want to get a little bit of money, buy some weapons, buy some armor, a kill streak maybe, and try to win. I'm not saying that it doesn't follow the same premise as the first Warzone, because it does, but a lot of the complaints I'm seeing on Twitter and other places is that this feels too slow. You don't see as many people, you don't get in combat as much. Now, personally, I like that. I like anything that's going to be slower. Anything, especially with Call of Duty, that slows things down, I'm going to like more. So that's why I already tend to like this more than the first Warzone. I also feel that the map's laid out a bit better. Warzone 1 kind of just felt like the way they do things in Fortnite, for example, where it's just they grab a location and just plop it down somewhere, and there's not really any kind of methodical thinking as to where they're putting things. Here things feel a bit more thought out as to where they're placed and just natural blending from one area to the next. That being said, I think not knowing the hot drops and the best loot zones right now also impacts how often you're seeing players, as everyone's kind of getting a feel for the map. And that's really all that's changed. Instead of getting your loadout drop from a loadout that you can buy from the shop, while the shop is still there, you instead buy your custom weapons that you would have gotten from your loadout. While there is still a loadout drop, it's later on in the match than it was previously, and there's a limited number. You can't just go buy them from a shop box and instantly have your full loadout. Now, you can't, like I said, you can go to the shop and buy your guns and the equipment, armor, kill streak, self-revives, your friends back, all of that stuff. But it's done in a way to where your loadout seems a bit more rare, in that sense, a bit more valuable. The Gulag isn't as game-changing as I thought it would be. It really does the bare minimum to kind of put you in a 2v2 with sometimes your teammates, sometimes a random, and if you are in the Gulag long enough for the Juggernaut to spawn, if everybody kills them, you get redeployed to the map. I've been to the Gulag 4 times now at this point, and I've never been in there long enough, whether winning or losing, to even see this guy spawn, but I have seen him spawn with other players. Like I said, not really a lot to talk about as far as Warzone 2. I like it more than the first Warzone because it's slower, because the hot drops aren't known right now, but as things change and as meta videos come out, that could all change. But let's talk about DMZ. So, your primary focus in DMZ and how it's different than Warzone or co-op are these missions, whether it's clearing strongholds, activating UAV towers, acquiring certain amounts of money, clearing certain bosses out. That's what you're doing, and you're getting rewards from doing it. Now, people compare this to Tarkov in the sense that you have a permanent inventory. If you go in with an M4 and a pistol and you die, you lose that M4 and a pistol. But because comparatively to Tarkov, there's so many more enemies with so much more loot at such a lower level of difficulty, that risk goes down. For example, if you've never played Tarkov, you can go throughout an entire raid and see, let's say, 4 people. Each of them have one gun, so you can get, 4 guns. Maybe one of those 4 guns is decent, so you really are going out of there with the gun you brought in and maybe another one. That's it. If you die, you lose both of those. In this, there's so many AI. I mean, you're killing 50 to 100 AI every single match. Every single one of them has some kind of assault rifle or sniper rifle. I mean, you're gonna just gather up guns. I haven't died yet. I have like 6 to 8 guns at this point, and I'm using the same one as when I started. What the hell did you actually do in DMZ mode? So as you see here, I equipped this challenge. You start left to right. As you do the leftmost challenges, you start to unlock the ones to the right, and so on and so forth within each tier of difficulty. So my challenge here was to acquire $60,000 in cash and then spend $60,000 in cash. Doesn't have to be in a single match, but obviously I'm going to try to do that, because why not? So you load in, you don't even have to drop in, and you're put in a random location, and there's other players as well as AI across the map. Now you can run around picking up contracts to make your money, you can kill other players, kill AI, go for vaults just like you can in Warzone, but I ended up finding a key for a stronghold pretty early on. Now let's talk about keys. Along with the other loot that you're going to bring back with you throughout your time in the DMZ, you're also going to find keys. Again, just like in Tarkov, there's keys to mark location, which they give you the grid for. For example, the one I found was for G4. So you go to G4 and unlock whatever's there. There could be some special weapons, some good armor, some kill streaks, money, other keys to better places, whatever it be. So there's those types of keys which are in specific locations throughout the entire map, and then there's stronghold keys, which you see here. Strongholds, you'll see, is that marker on my map in the top left corner that looks like a castle. You can go to any of them on the map, you open them up, there's a bunch of enemies, a bunch of loot, and usually it's pretty decent stuff. My problem here with the whole loot cycle of this game mode is you're running around to, whether it's a radiation zone, a weapon drop, a stronghold, a special key location, to get loot. The loot doesn't really matter, because if I have a short barrel M4 versus a long barrel M4 versus an AK or the AUG or the MP5, I haven't ran into players yet in my 4 matches of playing DMZ. So you're fighting AI 90% of the time, at least so far in the cycle of this game, you're running into AI. And so your weapon of choice, while the AI isn't incredibly easy, it's about the same level as the co-op missions, so it's easy enough to where it doesn't really matter what weapon you have, right? So all of that loot and that grinding to get the better loot and the better armor and the self-revive kits and the kill streaks, you really don't need it. There's really no point to it. And so that's where my kind of problem with this game mode comes in. Yes, you're grinding and running around the map and getting better loot and going into these high tier areas, but there's no need for the loot. With Tarkov, because everyone's comparing this to Tarkov, it's 2 completely different types of games. Tarkov, you have to evolve with the game as the wipe goes. As the game goes, if you don't have better armor, better weapons, and better bullets, and going to all these different tier locations to get better stuff to make more money, you'll fall behind everybody else. Here, that's not the case. Day 1, you could have the best gun and the best armor, and day 2, you could lose it all, and day 3, you could get it all back, right? There's really no sort of progression here, and that's my problem, and that's where these missions come into play. So you saw me talk about that getting 60,000 and spending $60,000 is my mission. Now, obviously you'll unlock the next mission, which is primarily what I'm going for, but you'll get XP and some type of reward, whether it's a double XP token, a calling card, an emblem, a weapon scan, a blueprint, whatever it may be. You'll get some type of reward. Obviously, the higher difficulty the challenge, the higher and better the reward will be. That being said, there's really no reason to play this. I can't go in and get a weapon that's going to be game-changing. I could probably go in with a pistol and make it out with the same amount of loot that I make it out with going in with an M4. It really doesn't matter because there's so much AI and because they're so easy. Now, I understand without alienating the entire Call of Duty community, you really can't change that up much, but you have to find some sort of balance of making it difficult enough to where any of this loot matters at all, or so easy to where there's no point in playing it. Now, the only other sort of progression, obviously, aside from these challenges, the special rewards you get from that, is XP, which you get from everything in the game, but interestingly, instead of, again, like Tarkov, getting this money that you get from picking up items and taking it and transferring that into some sort of market where you can buy and sell weapons to other people, or at least to the game itself to get better weapons, it doesn't work like that at all. To use Tarkov terms, the items you obtain while in raid are used to sell at buy stations to either get better weapons and armor while in raid, or if you have, let's say, X amount of money in your inventory in items, whenever you extract, you get that transferred into XP. So there's no sense of money here having like an overall bankroll to buy and sell more items. So how do I feel about DMZ overall? So my problem here is the why, right? What's set up, the foundation that's there is good. You can get the money and get the keys and go to special locations with high tier loot and a bunch of enemies and strongholds and special key locations and different types of rarities of loot and all of that stuff, and like a private stash. All that's there. Foundation is there. But why? Why am I getting this loot? It's not any better than the loot on the rest of the map. Why am I caring about the amount of money and items that I pick up when it's just going to transfer into XP and I can just go hunt AI or hunt players and get that same amount of XP? There's no reason to do a lot of the things that they put in place here. So that's my problem here. And the same thing with the challenges. These challenges, while I'm at a low tier now, are easy, like get $60,000 and spend $60,000. Obviously, as the tiers and the difficulties go up, they'll get more difficult to eventually, I assume, having to eliminate players or certain bosses and locations. And the problem with that is that none of those rewards are worth it. I've looked at them. I don't care about calling cards or emblems or really even weapon blueprints. There has to be something locked behind this mode that's meaningful, that makes people want to play it, but not so meaningful that it pisses the people off who don't want to play it. And that's the problem with this mode. There's really no winning. So to wrap things up, to summarize it all, I think Warzone 2 does a really good job of taking the things that Warzone 1 set down in the beginning and advancing upon them and kind of making them smoother and working better. Along with that movement system, they've kind of fine-tuned and slowed down a bit and integrating that into Warzone. If you don't like the slowed down, no bunny hopping, sliding around corners gameplay, you're not really going to like this, which for me works great. I still get drop shotted consistently, so we got to work on that problem, but one step at a time. DMZ is a good foundation, all of the mechanics are there, and the core gameplay loop, to use a vocab term, is set in place, but just the progression and why you're playing it, that's not there yet. There's no reason to play it. You don't get anything from it that you can't get from other places that's meaningful, at least to me. So that's my thoughts on the newest update for Modern Warfare 2. You guys let me know what you think of the game overall and the Season 1 update, and I'll see you guys on the next one.